The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of alien representatives sat in their seats. They came from hundreds of different worlds. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no bodies at all and floated like clouds of light. But today, they all watched the same thing. The giant screen showed a small blue planet spinning slowly in space. Earth. High Counselor Ven stood at the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled the council for 3,000 years. They were wise. They were powerful. And right now, Ven was very confused. "Explain this to me again," he said to his assistant. The assistant, a small creature covered in soft fur, checked his tablet. "The humans have accepted the trial, High Counselor." "All species accept the trial," Ven said. "That is not strange. What is strange is that they accepted it so quickly. Did they not ask questions? Did they not request more time?" "No, High Counselor. When we sent the invitation, they responded within 1 standard day. They said they were excited." Ven's 4 hands tightened into fists. "Excited? Do they not know what the trial is?" The assistant looked uncomfortable. "We sent them all the information. The death rates, the environmental data, the footage of previous attempts. They watched everything. And their leader laughed, High Counselor. He said it looked like fun." The hall erupted in whispers. Representatives from dozens of worlds turned to each other in shock. The trial was not fun. The trial was death. For 800 years, the Galactic Council had used the trial to test new species. It was simple. Survive 30 days on planet Vexera 9. If you lived, your species could join the Council. If you died, well, that was expected. 847 species had attempted the trial. 847 species had failed. Vexera 9 was not a normal planet. It was a death world. The gravity was heavy. The air was poison. The water was acid. And the creatures that lived there were monsters. They had evolved over millions of years to become perfect killers. No soft species could survive there. No civilized being could last more than a few days. The longest any species had survived was 12 days. They were the Krell, a race of giant warriors with armor-like skin and incredible strength. They had sent their 50 best soldiers. Only 3 made it to day 12. By day 13, there was nothing left but bones. So when the humans said they were excited about the trial, the entire galaxy thought they were insane. Counselor Ven walked back to his seat and pressed a button. The screen changed to show a human ship approaching the council station. It was a small ship. Simple. Nothing impressive. The humans had only discovered space travel 200 years ago. They were babies in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations. "How many are they sending?" Ven asked. 12, High Counselor. 12. Ven almost laughed. The Krell sent 50 of their strongest warriors. The Vorn sent 200 soldiers in full battle armor. And humans are sending 12? Yes, High Counselor. They said 12 was enough. The whispers in the hall grew louder. Some representatives were laughing. Others were shaking their heads. A few looked sad. They had seen young species die before. It was always tragic. The human ship docked with the station. A few minutes later, the doors to the Great Hall opened. And for the first time, the Galactic Council saw humans in person. There were 12 of them, just as promised. They walked in a neat line, wearing simple gray uniforms. They were small, much smaller than most species in the hall. They had no claws, no armor, no visible weapons. They looked soft, breakable. At the front of the group was a man with short black hair and calm eyes. He walked with confidence, like he owned the room. Behind him was a woman with her hair tied back in a tight ponytail. She was scanning the hall, studying every alien face with sharp attention. "I am Captain Park Do-yoon," the man said. His voice was clear and strong. "This is my second-in-command, Lieutenant Kim Yuna. We are here for the trial." Counselor Ven stood up slowly. He had lived for 400 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had watched empires burn. But something about these humans made him feel strange. There was no fear in their eyes, no nervousness. They looked at the thousands of aliens around them like they were looking at furniture. "Captain Park," Ven said, "do you understand what the trial involves?" "Yes." "Do you understand that every species before you has failed?" "Yes." "Do you understand that you will likely die?" Park Do-yoon smiled. It was a small smile, but it made several aliens in the front row step back. There was something in that smile. Something dangerous. "High Counselor," Park said. "With respect, I have read the files on Vexra-9. I have studied the environment. I have seen the creatures. And I have to be honest with you. Yes, I have been to worse places on my home planet." The hall went completely silent. Then, slowly, laughter began. It started from the back rows and spread forward. Hundreds of aliens were laughing at the tiny human and his ridiculous claim. Worse places? On their home planet? What kind of joke was this? But Park Do-yoon did not laugh. Neither did his team. They stood there, calm and patient, waiting for the laughter to stop. Lieutenant Kim Yuna leaned close to her captain. "They think we are joking," she whispered. "Let them think that," Park replied quietly. "It will make our victory more satisfying." When the laughter finally died down, Counselor Ven wiped tears from his eyes. He had not laughed that hard in decades. "Captain Park," he said, "I admire your confidence. But confidence does not stop claws. Confidence does not filter poison air. Confidence does not reduce gravity." "No," Park agreed. "But training does. Experience does. And humans have plenty of both." An alien in the front row stood up. He was massive, covered in thick green scales. Ambassador Krell, representative of the warrior species that had lasted 12 days. "Little human," he growled. "My people are the strongest in the galaxy. Our skin can stop bullets. Our muscles can crush steel. And Vexra-9 killed us like insects. What makes you think you can do better?" Park turned to face him. The size difference was almost funny. The Krell ambassador was 3 times his height and 10 times his weight. But Park looked up at him without any sign of fear. "Ambassador," Park said, "your people are strong. That is true. But strength is not everything. On my planet, we have a saying. It is not the strongest that survives. It is the one that adapts." "Adapts?" The Krell ambassador laughed. "Adapt to what? Poison air? Crushing gravity? Monsters that eat metal?" "Yes," Park said simply. "All of those things. And more." The ambassador shook his head. "You are either very brave or very stupid, little human." "Perhaps both," Park admitted. "But I am also very prepared." Counselor Ven raised a hand for silence. "Captain Park, the trial begins in 3 standard days. Your team will be transported to Vexra-9 and left there with basic supplies. If any of you survive for 30 days, humanity will earn a seat on this council. Do you accept these terms?" "We accept." "Do all members of your team accept?" "They must agree individually." Park stepped aside. One by one, his team members stepped forward and spoke. Sergeant Lee Jinho, a broad-shouldered man with a scar on his chin. "I accept." Medic Choi Sora, a small woman with gentle eyes and steady hands. "I accept." Private Baek Yoonji, young but fierce, with fire in her eyes. "I accept." Engineer Han-Mireille, calm and thoughtful, already calculating in her head. I accept. And so it went. 8 more humans stepped forward. 8 more voices said the same words. When it was done, Park turned back to the council. When it was done, Park turned back to the council. We are ready, he said. Councilor Ven nodded slowly. Very well. You have 3 days to prepare. Use them wisely. They may be your last days alive. Park bowed his head slightly. Thank you for the advice, High Counselor. But we will not need 3 days. We have been preparing for this our entire lives. What do you mean? Park smiled again. That dangerous smile that made aliens nervous. High Counselor, you call Vexera 9 a death world. A place of horror. A test that no species can pass. But where we come from, we have another name for places like that. And what is that? Home. The humans turned and walked out of the hall. Behind them, thousands of aliens sat in confused silence. They did not understand. How could they? They had never seen Earth. They had never felt its hurricanes. They had never run from its predators. They had never climbed its mountains or swum in its oceans or survived its endless, beautiful violence. They did not know that humans were not soft creatures from a gentle world. They did not know that Earth was one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. They did not know that humans had spent millions of years fighting, adapting, surviving against impossible odds. But they would learn. In 3 days, the trial would begin, and the galaxy would finally understand why humans called themselves the children of a death world. Park Do-young walked back to the human ship with his team. When the doors closed behind them, Sergeant Lee Jin-ho finally let out a long breath. Captain, he said, did you see the size of that Krell ambassador? He could crush me with one hand. Yes, Park said. And Vexera 9 killed 50 of his people. What does that tell you? Jin-ho thought for a moment. That size does not matter? That size does not matter, Park confirmed. On Earth, the dinosaurs were giants. They ruled the planet for millions of years. Day 5 on Vexera 9 began like any other. The orange sun rose slowly over the black mountains. The air was thick with the smell of sulfur. And somewhere in the darkness of the ancient ruins, something was watching the humans. Captain Park Do-young felt it before he saw it. A prickling sensation on the back of his neck. The feeling of being hunted. He had felt this before, many times, in jungles and deserts back on Earth. His body knew what it meant. We are not alone, he said quietly. Lieutenant Kim Yuna did not react visibly. She kept walking, kept scanning the ruins around them. But her hand moved slowly to the knife at her belt. How many? I do not know. But they are big. I can feel the ground trembling slightly. The team had moved into the ruins 2 days ago. The ancient structures provided excellent shelter from the harsh winds and temperature swings. Engineer Han-Mireille had even managed to set up a basic power system using the planet's geothermal energy. Life was getting easier. But easy never lasted long on a death world. Sergeant Lee Jin-ho spotted it first. He had climbed to the top of a ruined tower to get a better view of the area. What he saw made his blood run cold. Captain, he said into his radio, we have a problem. Report. Remember those Razorbacks? The ones that ran away on day 1? Yes, they are back. And they brought friends. Park climbed up beside Jin-ho and looked out across the landscape. His heart sank. The Razorbacks had returned, but they were not alone. Among them moved much larger creatures. Massive beasts the size of elephants, with thick armored skin and horns like spears. They walked on 4 powerful legs, and their eyes burned with a terrible intelligence. What are those things? Park asked. Yuna checked her tablet. Apex predators. The files call them crushers. They are the top of the food chain on Vexora 9. The Razorbacks sometimes follow them, eating whatever they leave behind. How many previous trial species encountered these crushers? All of them. None survived the encounter. Park counted the creatures below. There were at least 50 Razorbacks and 5 crushers. They were moving slowly toward the ruins, clearly hunting something. Hunting the humans. How did they find us? Jinho asked. We have been here for 2 days. We made fires. We purified water. We made noise. Eventually, the predators were going to notice. Park climbed back down and gathered his team. 12 humans stood in a circle, listening to their captain explain the situation. Their faces were serious, but not afraid. They had all known this moment would come. We cannot run, Park said. They are faster than us. We cannot hide. They already know where we are. So we have only one option. Fight? Yoonji asked, her eyes bright with something that looked almost like excitement. Not exactly. We are going to do something that no species has ever done on this planet. We are going to make them afraid of us. The plan was simple but dangerous. Humans had been dealing with predators since the beginning of their history. They had learned that most predators, no matter how big or strong, followed the same basic rules. They attacked weakness. They avoided strength. They ran from fire and loud noise. The team split into 3 groups. Mirei and Sora gathered anything that could make fire. Jinho and Yoonji collected metal objects that could create loud sounds. Park, Yuna, and the others prepared the defensive positions. By the time the sun reached its peak, the humans were ready. The Crushers arrived first. They walked into the ruins like kings entering their kingdom. Their massive feet cracked the ancient stone. Their breath came out in hot clouds of steam. Behind them, the Razorbacks spread out, surrounding the human position. Park stepped forward, alone. He walked until he was just 30 meters from the lead crusher. The beast was enormous, easily 5 times his size. One swing of its head could kill him instantly. He stood his ground. You think you are the hunters here, Park said, his voice calm and clear. You think we are prey, but you are wrong. The crusher lowered its head, pointing its horns at the tiny creature in front of it. It let out a roar that shook the ground. Any normal species would have run, would have screamed, would have died. Park smiled. Now, he said. Behind him, the humans acted. Mirei lit the fires she had prepared. Flames erupted in a circle around the crusher, cutting it off from its pack. The beast roared again, this time in confusion. Fire was rare on Vexora 9. Fire was danger. At the same time, Jinho and Yoonji began making noise. They banged metal on stone, creating a terrible ringing sound that echoed off the ruins. More team members joined in, shouting and screaming at the top of their lungs. The effect was immediate. The Razorbacks scattered, running in all directions. They had never experienced anything like this. Prey was not supposed to fight back. Prey was not supposed to attack. But the Crushers were smarter. After the initial shock, the lead beast recovered. It fixed its eyes on Park, the tiny human who had dared to challenge it. It charged. Park did not move. He waited, counting the seconds. The ground shook under the Crusher's weight. Its horns gleamed in the firelight. Death was coming fast. At the last possible moment, Park dove to the side. The Crusher rushed past him, unable to stop its momentum. It crashed into one of the ancient walls, sending stones flying everywhere. Again, Park shouted. More fires. More noise. The humans moved like a single organism, working together in perfect coordination. They had trained for this. Not on Vexora 9, but in simulations and exercises back on Earth. Fighting predators was in their blood. Their ancestors had done it with spears and torches. Now they did it with the same basic tools. The second crusher charged at Yuna. She stood her ground, waving a burning branch in front of her. At the last moment, she threw the branch directly at the creature's face. The beast roared and veered away, temporarily blinded by smoke and flame. Sora and another team member worked together to drive a third crusher into a dead end. The creature found itself trapped between two walls, with fire blocking its escape. It bellowed in frustration and fear. One by one, the crushers realized they had made a mistake. These strange creatures were not prey. They were something much more dangerous. They were predators who had learned to use tools. Predators who worked together. Predators who did not know how to give up. The lead crusher, the biggest and strongest of them all, made its decision. It turned and ran. The others followed. Within minutes, all 5 crushers had fled the ruins. Their razorback followers close behind. The humans stood in the middle of the battlefield, breathing hard but alive. All 12 of them. Not a single injury. Not a single death. Jinho started laughing first. Then Yunji joined in. Soon, all 12 humans were laughing, the sound echoing off the ancient stones. Up in orbit, the observation ship had gone completely silent. Dozens of alien scientists stared at their screens, unable to process what they had just witnessed. They drove off a pack of crushers, one of them said, his voice barely a whisper. 12 of them. Against 5 crushers and 50 razorbacks. Without any real weapons, another added. Just fire and noise. Ambassador Krell stood at the back of the room, his massive arms crossed over his chest. His face showed no expression, but inside, he was experiencing something he had not felt in a very long time. Respect. Now I understand, he said quietly. Now I understand why they were not afraid. What do you mean, Ambassador? These humans? They are not newcomers to the universe. They are not soft creatures from a gentle world. They are Deathworlders. Like Vexaranine, but worse. Much worse. That is impossible. We have seen their planet. It has water. It has plants. It has a breathable atmosphere. Yes, and it also has hurricanes that level cities. Earthquakes that swallow mountains. Volcanoes that darken the sky for years. And predators. Thousands of species of predators. Lions, tigers, bears, sharks, wolves, crocodiles. Krell listed the names he had learned from the human database. These creatures have been fighting for survival since the day they were born. This planet is not a challenge for them. It is a reminder of home. On the surface, Park was organizing his team for cleanup. They had won the battle, but they needed to stay prepared. The crushers might return. Other predators might come. The fight was never truly over. Good work, everyone, he said. But we cannot relax. We need to strengthen our defenses. We need to prepare for the next attack. Do you think they will come back? Sora asked. Maybe. Predators have good memories. They will remember what happened today. Some might decide to look for easier prey. Others might want revenge. Park looked out at the landscape beyond the ruins. We need to be ready for both. The team got to work. They built better walls. They created more fire traps. They established lookout points on the highest structures. By the time night fell, the ruins had been transformed into a fortress. That night, the humans gathered around their central fire. The flames cast dancing shadows on the ancient walls. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of the planet's night. Creatures clicking, scraping, howling. The sounds of a world that never stopped trying to kill. I have a question, Yunji said. If Earth is really a death world like Vexaranine, why did we build cities? Why did we create civilization? Most death world species just survive. They do not advance. Park thought about this. It was a good question, one that human scientists had debated for centuries. And then they died. Do you know what survived? Small mammals, Una said. Our ancestors. Exactly. We survived ice ages. We survived the dropship fell through the atmosphere of Vexeranine like a burning star. Inside, 12 humans sat strapped to their seats, feeling every shake and bump as the ship fought against gravity and wind. The walls groaned. The metal screamed. Any normal species would have been terrified. Sergeant Lee Jinho was laughing. This is nothing, he shouted over the noise. Remember that training drop over the Pacific? Now that was rough. Private Beak Yoonji grinned from her seat across from him. I remember you threw up 3 times. Only twice. The third time was just dry heaving. Captain Park Do-hyun sat at the front of the ship, watching the screens that showed the planet rushing up to meet them. Vexeranine looked angry. The sky was dark orange, filled with thick clouds that flashed with strange lightning. The ground below was a mix of black rock and dark red sand. No green, no blue, no signs of the gentle colors that meant life was easy. 2 minutes to landing, the pilot announced. Brace for impact. The ship hit the ground hard. Metal bent. Sparks flew. The humans were thrown against their straps with enough force to break bones in most species. But they just grunted and started unbuckling themselves before the ship had even stopped moving. Lieutenant Kim Yuna was the first one out. She stepped through the hatch and onto the surface of Vexeranine. For a moment, she just stood there, breathing through her filter mask, feeling the heavy gravity pull at her body. Then she started laughing. Park climbed out behind her. Report, Lieutenant. Captain, Una said, still laughing. This is it? This is the planet that killed 800 species? Park looked around. The gravity was heavy, about 1.3 times Earth normal. His body felt like he was carrying an extra 30 kilos on his back. But he had trained with weights heavier than that. His muscles knew how to handle the strain. The air was thick with hydrogen sulfide. The smell of rotten eggs. Without the filter masks, it would have damaged their lungs in hours. But the masks were simple technology. Humans had been using similar devices for centuries in mines and factories. The temperature was hot. Maybe 45 degrees Celsius. Uncomfortable, but not deadly. Humans had lived in deserts hotter than this for thousands of years. I do not understand, Park said slowly. The file said this planet was extremely dangerous. Engineer Han Mireille walked up beside him, already scanning the area with her equipment. The files were written by species that evolved on paradise worlds, Captain. Their home planets have stable climates, breathable air, and low gravity. To them, this is hell. And to us? Mireille smiled. To us, this is a Tuesday. The rest of the team spread out around the landing zone. They moved with practiced efficiency, each person knowing exactly what to do. Sergeant Jinho started setting up a perimeter. Medic Choi Sora checked everyone's vital signs. Private Yoonji climbed to higher ground to scout the area. Within an hour, they had established a base camp. Park stood in the center of the camp, watching his team work. They were not struggling. They were not panicking. They were doing exactly what they had trained to do, in conditions that were harsh but manageable. Captain, Yoonji called down from her lookout position. I can see some kind of structure about 2 kilometers north. Looks like ruins. Park nodded. Mark it on the map. We will investigate tomorrow. Up in orbit, the Galactic Council's observation ship floated silently in space. Inside, dozens of alien scientists watched the humans on their screens. They had expected to see panic. They had expected to see fear. They had expected to see the beginning of another failure. What they saw made no sense. "They are smiling," one scientist said. "Why are they smiling?" "Perhaps they do not understand the danger," another suggested. "Perhaps they are in shock." "No," said a third voice. It belonged to Ambassador Krell, who had come to watch the trial himself. "Look at how they move. Look at how they work together. They are not in shock. They are comfortable." "Comfortable? On Vexeronine?" "I do not understand it either," Krell admitted. "But I know warriors when I see them. These humans are not afraid. They have seen worse." But back on the surface, the sun was setting. On Vexeronine, sunset happened fast. One moment it was light. The next moment, darkness fell like a blanket. The humans were ready. Jinho had set up lights around the perimeter. Simple chemical lights that burned bright green, creating a circle of visibility around the camp. Beyond the lights, the darkness was complete. And in that darkness, things were starting to move. Park heard them first. Soft sounds. Clicking and scraping. The noise of creatures waking up for the hunt. "Everyone stay alert," he said calmly. "We have company." The first creature came into view at the edge of the light. It was the size of a large dog, with 6 legs and a head full of teeth. Its skin was covered in sharp ridges that looked like natural armor. Its eyes reflected the light with an orange glow. More creatures appeared behind it. 5, 10, 20. They surrounded the camp, watching the humans with hungry eyes. "Razorbacks," Yuna said, checking her tablet. "According to the files, they are responsible for most deaths in the first week of the trial. Fast, aggressive, and they hunt in packs. How did other species deal with them?" Park asked. "They did not. The Razorbacks killed them before they could react." Park studied the creatures. They were dangerous, no doubt. But they were also cautious. They were not attacking. They were waiting, testing. "They are predators," Park said. "Smart predators. They do not want to risk injury if they do not have to. They are trying to figure out if we are prey. Are we?" Park smiled. "We are humans. We are never prey." He walked to the edge of the light circle. The Razorbacks tensed, ready to attack or flee. Park stopped just inside the light and stared directly at the largest creature. He did not blink. He did not look away. He held his ground. The Razorback growled. Its packmate shifted nervously. Park took one step forward. The Razorback stepped back. "You see," Park said quietly, not breaking eye contact. "This is what other species never understood. Predators respect strength. They respect confidence. They do not attack things that might fight back." He took another step. The Razorback retreated further. "On Earth, we learned this lesson millions of years ago. We were small. We were weak. But we were never afraid. And that made us dangerous." Jinho walked up beside his captain, holding a metal rod. He banged it against a rock, creating a loud, ringing sound. The Razorbacks flinched. "Should I chase them off, Captain?" "No need. They will leave on their own." And he was right. One by one, the Razorbacks melted back into the darkness. They were still out there, still watching. But they had learned something important tonight. These strange two-legged creatures were not easy prey. They were something else entirely. The night passed slowly. The humans took turns keeping watch. They ate their rations. They talked quietly. They did all the normal things that soldiers do when camping in hostile territory. By morning, they were all still alive. "Day 1 complete," Yuna announced, checking her records. "All team members healthy. No injuries. No incidents." Park nodded. "Good. Today we explore." "Engineer Han, what can you tell me about the local resources?" Myray pulled up her data. "The soil contains useful minerals. There is a water source about 1 kilometer east, but it is highly acidic. I can build a purification system with the materials we brought. The rock formations to the north might provide shelter from the wind and temperature changes. Medic Choi, status of our supplies? Sora checked her inventory. We have enough food and water for 2 weeks. After that, we need to find local sources. Medical supplies are adequate, but I recommend we avoid serious injuries. I always recommend that, Jinho muttered. For some reason, no one ever listens. The team laughed. It was a strange sound on this deadly planet. Laughter, joy, the sounds of creatures who were not afraid dot up in the observation ship. The aliens were growing more confused by the hour. They slept through the night, a scientist reported. Actual sleep, with razorbacks circling their camp. They have been on the surface for 18 hours, another added. At this point, most species have already lost at least one member. Ambassador Crow leaned forward, studying the screens with intense focus. Look at their faces. They are not just surviving. They are enjoying themselves. Impossible. No one enjoys Vexeranine, and yet they are. I have seen that look before. It is the look of hunters who have found good hunting ground, of warriors who have found a worthy challenge. But they are so small, so fragile. Crow shook his massive head. I am beginning to think we have misunderstood these humans. They are not fragile. They are something else. Something we have never seen before. On the surface, the humans were preparing to move. They packed their essential gear and left the rest at the base camp. The plan was simple. Explore during the day. Return before dark. Learn the land. Find resources. Survive. Park led the way, with Yuna beside him. The rest of the team followed in a loose formation, each person watching a different direction. They moved carefully but confidently, like people who had done this many times before. The landscape of Vexeranine was harsh but fascinating. Twisted rock formations rose from the ground like giant sculptures. Strange plants grew in the shadows, adapted to survive without sunlight. Small creatures scurried away as the humans approached, hiding in cracks and holes. This place is. Because we refuse to accept survival as enough, he said finally. Other species adapt to their environment. They become what their world needs them to be. But humans are day 15, halfway through the trial, and something impossible was happening on Vexeranine. Counselor then stood before the Galactic Council, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of disbelief. Behind him, the giant screen showed live footage from the planet's surface. What it showed defied explanation. They have built a settlement, Ven said, his voice cracking. In 15 days, they have built a functioning settlement. The footage showed the ancient ruins, but they were no longer ruined. The humans had rebuilt walls. They had constructed roofs over open spaces. They had created pathways and storage areas and water collection systems. What had once been a dead place was now alive. And that was not even the most shocking part. Zoom in on Sector 4, Ven commanded. The image changed to show a fenced area near the edge of the settlement. Inside the fence, a dozen razorbacks moved peacefully. They were not attacking. They were not hunting. They were eating from bowls that the humans had provided. They have domesticated the razorbacks, Ven said. In 2 weeks, they have taken one of the most dangerous predators on Vexeranine and turned it into a pet. The council erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions. Some demanded to see more footage. Others insisted that the images must be fake. This was impossible. No species could adapt this quickly. No species could change a death world this fast. But the footage was real, and it only got more incredible. On the surface, engineer Han Mireille was putting the finishing touches on her greatest project yet. She had spent the last 10 days studying the planet's geology. She had found underground chambers filled with superheated water, and she had found a way to use them. "The system is ready, Captain," she announced. "We now have reliable power generation." Park walked over to examine her work. It was impressive. Myre had built a small geothermal power station using materials salvaged from the ruins and their original supplies. It would not power a city, but it would provide enough electricity for lights, basic heating, and the water purification systems. "How long will it last?" "Indefinitely, if we maintain it. The geothermal source is stable. It has been heating these chambers for millions of years. It will keep heating them for millions more." Park smiled. This was exactly what humans did. They found resources. They used them. They turned hostile environments into homes. Nearby, medic Choi Sora was conducting her own experiments. She had been studying the local plant life, looking for anything that could be useful. Most of the plants were toxic to humans, but a few showed promise. "This one," she said, holding up a strange purple leaf. "It has compounds similar to certain earth medicines. If I can process it correctly, it might help treat infections." "Are you sure it is safe?" "I tested it on myself first. In small doses. The side effects are mild. Slight dizziness. Dry mouth. Nothing dangerous." Park raised an eyebrow. "You tested unknown alien plants on yourself?" Sora shrugged. "Someone had to. And I am the medic. I know what symptoms to watch for." This was another thing that made humans special. They were willing to take risks, to experiment, to try things that might kill them, just to see if they would work. It was reckless. It was dangerous. And it was the reason humanity had conquered Earth. Private Beak Yoonji came running up, her face bright with excitement. "Captain, you need to see this." She led Park to the edge of the settlement, where Sergeant Lee Jinho was standing next to the Razorback pen. Inside, one of the creatures was lying on its side while another human, a young soldier named O. Teeman, scratched its belly. "It likes belly rubs," Teeman explained, grinning. "Took me 3 days to figure it out, but once I started doing this, it followed me everywhere." The Razorback made a sound that was almost like purring. Its 6 legs kicked lazily in the air. It looked completely content. "How did this happen?" Park asked, amazed. Jinho explained. "After the big fight with the Crushers, some of the Razorbacks started hanging around the edges of the settlement. I think they figured out that we were the new top predators. They wanted to be on the winning side. So they just joined us? Not exactly. At first, they were still dangerous. But Teeman started leaving food for them. Just small pieces of our rations. Nothing we would miss. Eventually, they started associating us with food instead of danger. And now?" Teeman stood up, and the Razorback followed him like a dog. "Now they are part of the team. This one I named Bada. She is the smartest of the pack. She can understand basic commands. Sit. Stay. Hunt. Hunt. Watch this." Teeman pointed toward a small creature hiding in the rocks nearby. "Bada, hunt." The Razorback exploded into motion. In seconds, she had caught the small creature and brought it back to Teeman. She dropped it at his feet and looked up at him, waiting for approval. "Good girl." Teeman scratched behind her ears. Bada made that purring sound again. Park shook his head in amazement. On Earth, it had taken thousands of years to domesticate wolves into dogs. Here, on an alien death world, his team had done something similar in 2 weeks. "We should be careful," Park said. "They are still wild animals. They could turn on us." "I know," Teeman agreed. "But for now, they are useful. They can help us hunt. They can warn us of danger. They can even fight alongside us if needed." It was a risk, But humans had always taken risks with animals. They had ridden horses into battle. They had used dogs to hunt and guard. They had formed partnerships with creatures that could have killed them because the benefits outweighed the dangers. That was the human way. Calculate the risks. Accept the ones worth taking. And never stop pushing forward. Days 16 through 20 passed quickly. The settlement grew stronger. The humans explored further. They mapped the surrounding area. They identified safe zones and danger zones. They learned the patterns of the local wildlife. And they were not just surviving. They were thriving. Lieutenant Kim Yuna had established a regular patrol route around the settlement. Her team made 3 circuits per day, checking for threats and gathering resources. They had found edible fungi growing in the deeper parts of the ruins. They had discovered a type of rock that could be used to sharpen tools. They had even found a small deposit of metal that Mayray was excited to process. "We could build proper tools with this," Mayray said, examining the ore. "Knives, axes, maybe even basic machines. In 10 more days? Probably not. But if we had more time." She trailed off, her eyes distant, already planning projects that might never happen. Park understood. They were not here to colonize Vexoranine. They were here to survive 30 days and prove that humanity deserved a seat on the Galactic Council. But part of him wished they could stay longer. There was so much more to learn. So much more to build. On day 22, something unexpected happened. A signal came from orbit. The Council wanted to speak with them directly. Park gathered his team in the central building they had constructed. It was the largest structure in the settlement, with solid walls and a roof that kept out the worst of the heat and wind. In the center, Mayray had set up their communication equipment. Councilor Ven's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and confused, and something else that Park had not seen in an alien before. "Afraid. Captain Park," Ven said. "I hope this transmission finds you well." "Very well, High Counselor. How can I help you?" Ven struggled to find words. "The Council has been watching your progress. We have seen what you have accomplished. And we have questions. I will answer what I can." "How?" Ven asked, the single word carrying centuries of confusion. "How have you done this?" 847 species have attempted the trial. None of them survived past day 12. None of them ever domesticated local wildlife. None of them ever built permanent structures. None of them ever thrived. Park thought about his answer carefully. This was an important moment, not just for him and his team, but for all of humanity. "High Counselor, you asked me how we have done this. The answer is simple. We did not do anything special. We did what humans have always done. And what is that? We refused to accept death as an option." Park gestured around him at the settlement his team had built. "Look at this place. 10 days ago, it was ruins. Empty. Dead. We looked at it and saw potential. We saw shelter. We saw resources. We saw a home. But the dangers. Yes, the predators. The climate. The poison air. We faced all of these things. And we found ways to overcome them. Not because we are stronger than other species. Not because we are smarter. But because we have something that other species lack. What is that? Stubbornness." Park smiled. "Humans are incredibly, irrationally stubborn. When something tries to kill us, we do not accept it. We do not run away. We do not give up. We fight back. We find solutions. We adapt and overcome and keep going until we win or we die." Ven was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "Your planet, Earth, what is it really like?" "It is beautiful," Park said, "and terrifying. We have deserts where nothing can live. We have frozen wastelands that stretch for thousands of kilometers. We have oceans filled with creatures that could swallow a ship whole. We have storms that can destroy cities and earthquakes that can level mountains. And you survived all of... The sun rose over Vexera 9, casting orange light across the settlement that humans had built. Walls of stone and salvaged metal stood strong against the wind. Water flowed through purification systems that hummed with geothermal power. Razorbacks patrolled the perimeter alongside human guards, their deadly claws now pointed outward, protecting instead of attacking. Captain Park Dahing stood at the highest point of the settlement, looking out at the world that had tried so hard to kill them. Behind him, his team was preparing for extraction. 30 days had passed. They had survived. No, they had done more than survive. They had conquered. Captain. Lieutenant Kim Yuna climbed up beside him. The shuttle is arriving in 3 hours. Everyone is accounted for. All 12 of us. Injuries? Minor. Sergeant Lee has some burns from a welding accident. Private? Twisted his ankle last week. Medic Choi treated herself for a mild infection. Nothing serious. Park nodded. 12 humans had arrived on this death world. 12 humans would leave it. In the entire history of the trial, no species had achieved a perfect survival rate. The best had been the Krell, who lost 47 of their 50 warriors before day 13. How is everyone feeling? Yuna smiled. Honestly, they are sad to leave. Sad? Look at what we built here, Captain. This place is ours now. We put our blood and sweat into every stone. Some of them want to stay. Park understood the feeling. He felt it too. There was something powerful about taming a wild place. About turning chaos into order. About looking at a hostile world and saying, "You belong to me now. We will be back," he said. If not us, then others. Humanity does not abandon what it claims. Down in the settlement, the rest of the team was saying their goodbyes. Engineer Han Mireille was making final checks on her power systems, writing down notes for whoever might come next. Medic Choi Sora was collecting plant samples to bring back for study. Sergeant Lee Jinho was wrestling playfully with Bada, the razorback they had domesticated. Private Beak Yunji found Taman sitting alone near the edge of the settlement. He was staring out at the landscape, a strange expression on his face. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "This place." Taman gestured at the world around them. "When we first arrived, I thought it was ugly, dangerous, a place that wanted us dead. It is all those things. I know. But it is also," he struggled to find the words, "it is also alive. In a way that our controlled environments back home never are. Everything here is fighting to survive. The plants, the animals, even the rocks, in a way. It is all part of this massive, violent, beautiful struggle." Yunji sat down beside him. "You sound like a philosopher. Maybe. Or maybe I am just a soldier who finally understands what he has been fighting for." Tamin turned to look at her. "We are not just surviving out here. We are part of something bigger. This world will remember us. The creatures here will tell stories about the strange two-legged things that arrived one day and changed everything. Animals do not tell stories, do they not? When that pack of razorbacks fled from our fire, they learned something. They will teach their young to avoid creatures that look like us. That is a kind of story. A lesson passed down through generations." Anji considered this. It was a strange thought. The idea that they had left a permanent mark on this world. Not just the buildings and structures, but something deeper. A memory in the collective consciousness of Vexera 9's creatures. 2 hours later, the shuttle appeared in the sky. It descended slowly, its engines fighting against the heavy gravity. The humans gathered in the central square of their settlement, watching it come down. Park stood at the front of the group. He was wearing the same uniform he had worn 30 days ago, now patched and stained with the dirt of an alien world. His team stood behind him, equally worn but standing tall. The shuttle landed. Its doors opened. And out stepped Counselor Ven himself. He was not alone. Ambassador Krell walked beside him, along with representatives from a dozen other species. They had all come to witness this moment, the end of the trial that no one had expected humanity to survive. Ven approached Park slowly. His forearms hung at his sides. His ancient eyes studied the human captain with something like wonder. "Captain Park Do-hyun," he said formally, "you and your team have completed the trial. 30 days on Vexera 9 with no deaths and no serious injuries. This is unprecedented in the history of the Galactic Council." "Thank you, High Counselor. But I did not come here just to acknowledge your success." Ven looked around at the settlement, at the walls and buildings and power systems, at the Razorbacks sitting peacefully beside human handlers, at the gardens where alien plants grew under careful cultivation. "I came to understand." "Understand what?" "Understand how. Understand why." Ven's voice cracked slightly. "I have lived for 400 years. I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched civilizations build themselves up and tear themselves down. But I have never seen anything like this. You did not just survive. You thrived. You conquered. You made this hostile world your home." Park was silent for a moment. Then he smiled. "High Counselor, may I show you something?" He led Ven through the settlement, past the power station that Mireille had built, past the medical center that Sora had established, past the training ground where Jinho put recruits through their exercises, past the animal pens where Razorbacks waited to be fed. Finally, they reached a small garden at the heart of the settlement. In the center of the garden stood a single tree. It was young and small, barely taller than Park himself. Its leaves were green, bright, living green in a world of red and black and orange. "This is a tree from Earth," Park said. "We brought it with us. A seedling. I planted it on our first day here." Ven stared at the tree. "It survived?" "It did more than survive. It grew. Look." Park pointed at the base of the tree, where tiny shoots were pushing up through the soil. "It is already spreading, making more of itself. But the soil, the air, the conditions, they are all wrong for Earth life. They are. And yet," Park knelt down and touched one of the small shoots gently, "life finds a way. That is something humans have always known. No matter how hostile the environment, no matter how impossible the odds, life finds a way to survive, to adapt, to grow." He stood up and faced the counselor. "That is how we did it, High Counselor. Not through superior strength or technology. We did it through the simple, stubborn refusal to give up. We looked at this world with all its dangers and challenges, and we said the same thing we have been saying for millions of years. What is that?" Park smiled. "We said, this will be hard, but we will do it anyway." Ven was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. "Your species, you are not like any we have encountered before. You are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced. But there is something in you, some fire that does not go out, some drive that cannot be stopped. We call it humanity," Park said. "It is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. It makes us capable of incredible kindness and terrible cruelty. It drives us to build and create and explore. It is what we are." Ambassador Krell stepped forward. The massive warrior looked down at the small human with new respect in his eyes. "Captain Park," he said, "my people are warriors. We have fought and died on 100 worlds. We thought we understood strength. But after watching your people for 30 days, I realize we knew nothing. You honor us, Ambassador. No, you honor yourselves. Your strength is not in your muscles or your weapons. It is in your spirit. Your refusal to accept defeat. Your ability to look at the impossible and say, I will do it anyway. Krell extended his massive hand. If you will accept it, I offer you the friendship of the Krell people. May our species stand together as allies. Park took the huge hand in both of his. We accept with gratitude. One by one, other representatives came forward. Species that had mocked humanity 30 days ago now offered words of respect and partnership. The small, soft creatures from the blue planet had earned their place among the stars. Finally, Councillor Ven raised his hands for silence. People of the Galactic Council, today we have witnessed history. For the first time in 800 years, a species has completed the trial. Not just survived, but conquered. Humanity has proven itself worthy of membership in our community. He turned to Park. Captain Park Do-Hien, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally offer humanity a seat among us. Will you accept? Park looked back at his team. 12 humans who had faced impossible odds and won. 12 humans who had laughed in the face of death. 12 humans who had shown the galaxy what their species was capable of. Yuna nodded. So did Jinho, Sora, Mireille, Yunji, Timan, and all the others. They had come here representing all of humanity. And now they would answer for all of humanity. I, Counselor, Park said, turning back to face Ven. On behalf of Earth and all its people, we accept. We accept the responsibilities and privileges of membership. We accept the challenges and opportunities that come with it. And we accept the chance to show the galaxy what humans can do when we work together. Then it is done. Ven's voice rang out across the settlement. Let it be recorded that on this day, humanity joined the Galactic Council. May your species bring wisdom and strength to our community.